Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this webinar about moving beyond spreadsheets, unlocking the power of your DMS data. I'm Tim Rose. I'm the editor of AM, and after my brief introduction, we have a couple of presenters for you, some experts from real-world analytics. So they will be Conall Lavery, the Chief Executive and Co-founder, and John Hogan, who's Chief Data Scientist and Co-founder. And in a moment, they'll begin their presentation. But just before they do, can I just remind you how you can get involved? As with all our webinars, you'll have joined us in listen-only mode, but you should have a dialog box somewhere on your screen which you can type into. So we do encourage you, please, to take part. After the presentation, we'll have about 15 minutes of Q&A with our presenters. So we certainly encourage you to type in your questions and any comments that you have while the webinar is live. Well, that's enough from me. So now over to the Real World Analytics team for the presentation. Conall, over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us. You're very welcome. Today, we're going to have a look at a better way to present your sales and after-sales information with a view to improving the performance of your multi-outlet auto dealership. And this is more a real-time system. Perhaps your current information systems have served you well today. However, today's information systems often fall short of your needs. The continuation of softness in new vehicle sales, the increasing challenges of sourcing quality used vehicles at the right price, combined with increasing competition in after-sales, have all combined to put more pressure on your margins. It's critical that management is on top of all the performance drivers in the business, and an information system or tool is a key tool for management. As we go around talking to auto dealers in the UK, we often hear people saying to us, we already have a lot of information. If you're just going to supply us more information, that's not what we need. They go on to tell us what we need is an information system where it distills everything down so that each manager can see what's going on in his or area quickly and simply. And ideally, we would like to see exceptions from the top flowing down to the person who needs to act on that exception. In other words, make it as actionable as possible. And they'd often go on to say to us then, if the information is only available to the head office managers, it's really no good to us at all. So just to tell you what we're going to cover today, I'm going to kick off and tell you a little bit about typically what we see today in auto dealerships and why we think that it's been a challenge to put something in place that really works for you. The name of the webinar is Moving Beyond Spreadsheets, Unlock the Power of Your DMS Data. But we won't just be talking about DMS data or about spreadsheet solutions. I came back from the NADA show in Las Vegas 2 weeks ago, and at one of their presentations, we were told that the average dealer in the US has over 24 applications in their business, and we haven't seen anything different in the UK. The information locked away in many of these systems are important to your performance, so they need to be integrated into your information system for it to work for you. I'll finish off the topic by giving you some high-level guidelines of what we think a good solution should look like. John Hogan will give you a live demonstration, which will give you some examples of what I've spoken about, just to give you a good feel for kind of how it works and how this might work for you, or this approach might work for you. John then is going to go on and talk a little bit about how he can help you evaluate the various solutions that might be in front of you. And I think he's relatively well qualified for that. John was a finance director of several retail companies. One of these grew tenfold over a 10-year period while he was there, so he had to evaluate quite a few solutions as they outgrew their previous systems. Our overall objective today is to provide you with an approach you can bring to your own business to improve your information tools. At the very least, we believe you will get a few nuggets that you can take back to your business and start using tomorrow. So, I'll kick off now. As mentioned there, the title is maybe a little bit understated in talking about integrate with DMS data. If you've just integrated with your DMS data, you probably only have about half the picture. As you well know, your manufacturers will often, make you use a different showroom system. We see innovation in other areas that the DMS covers, like in after sales, so vehicle health checks, if you like, came from outside the DMS providers. and sometimes you'll want to pick best of breed. At the show in NADA, there was a hall full of companies providing CRM systems, so you possibly have other ones there. So you need to bring that in too. Typically as well too, there's stuff outside the DMS like the sales and the after sales DOC, and if you're trying to maximize out your bonuses at the end of the month, end of the quarter with your manufacturers, you really have to have a really good fit on where you are in terms of your new vehicle sales to maximize out those bonuses. And in addition to that, if you really need to manage your business and be in control of your business, you'll need to match your transactions, your actual transactions with your budgets and targets. Other information systems that come into play are F&I, and your manufacturers will bring in third-party information like vehicle park. Okay, so don't read this slide. But if you were to go and talk to an IT consulting vendor and you describe this problem that I just described to you, they would probably recommend this kind of classic BI approach. This is where you go to a BI consultant and they'll build a solution based on SAP or Cognos or something like that. But unless you're in the top 4 dealers in the UK, you won't have the budget for it. This typically costs hundreds of thousands, if not a 7-figure number. It'll take a substantial amount of internal IT resources to manage the project. It'll take substantial senior management time. Typically, you will find that you're educating them in how your business works, and you'll probably have to be prepared to wait months or years for this. So it's not for the faint-hearted, and this really describes, I suppose, why we've ended up where we are today with the solutions we typically see. So what do we see? I mentioned that we're not just going to talk about spreadsheets, but spreadsheets tend to be everywhere. Sometimes we see solutions that are, if you like, a grade above that, where you might have built your own data repository and you might be running query tools, maybe SQL tools or something like that against that. But the problem with those is that they're still very static reports. The information doesn't really flow down to where action needs to be taken, and difficult to grow those requirements as you go along. And actually, we still tend to see spreadsheets. And the problem with spreadsheets, as we say here, is even before we look at staff going on holidays, somebody has to do them, so it takes up your time. And it's often lots of different people in the organization. So the sales manager may be doing some, the after sales manager may be doing some, the CFO certainly is in terms of trying to integrate with the budgets and targets. Another problem is around accuracy. Spreadsheets have links that break, formulas that get corrupted, and often what customers tell us too is that if they go out from the head office to an outlet and they sort of say, look, this is what we see in your business, this is the inventory, they'll get a completely different picture, and you'll spend more time talking about whose report is actually accurate. And what that tends to do is decrease the level of trust in the reports, and therefore the control that you have in your business. So just very briefly, what we think an excellent solution looks like is it hits these 6 points. So the first one there, integrating multiple data sources, I've already talked about this, and your modern data analytics, big data tools, they're very good at blending data from multiple sources. So tick in the box there for that type of approach. You need to generate reports very quickly. People don't have time to wait for reports. Typically off your DMS, it can take quite some time to generate reports. The repository-based solutions I talked about earlier would be quicker at that, all right. Third, reports we believe need to be automated and they need to be delivered. If you have to go looking for information, people are so busy, they don't tend to do that. It's a very subtle point, but we found that this works really, really well. So automated reports landing in the inbox at specific times, especially if they're around exceptions, and delivered further down the organization where action needs to be taken, that works much better than systems where you've got to go in and get the information. KPIs on the go, so you don't sit in your head office and manage your business from there. You go out and you meet people in the different outlets, and you really need a solution that works on your laptop, on your tablet, so that when you go into the outlet, you know as much as they do about what's going on, and you can ask additional questions, if you like, on the flow of what's actually happening there. We believe also that the system needs to be co-developed. We're a tech company ourselves, as many are that supply this sort of area, but you know your business better than we do. So you really need to interact very closely with your developer to ensure that it grows with your needs, it doesn't remain static. Another huge part is benchmarking. You already know that because you benchmark in your sales departments and at your technician level, but we believe we should bring that up a level and benchmark at outlet level to drive performance just as it does at that individual level. And last but no means least, customer service. Any tech solution that just kind of revolves around providing a tech support generally is somewhere, a lot of projects fail because of this kind of, if you like, gap. So we would recommend that you have somebody who works with you on that. And it's not that we teach you your business, but sometimes, we would bring in processes that you haven't seen before. One that I can think of off the top of my head is helping you put the used stock in the right place at the right time. And John's going to give some examples kind of along those lines. So at this stage, I'll hand over to John, who will go into a little bit more detail of what I've described there. John.
Okay, thank you, Conall. Good morning, guys. First, we're going to have a look at just like an example of a dashboard. Like the auto retail business is complicated enough, so like everything needs to be presented like pretty simply. So basically, you can get your information in 10 or 20 seconds. So here we have a vehicle dashboard, and we've combined new and used together. In here, then basically we can see our registrations for year to date, and the month to date version of this as well. So we can see 2,540, so that's up 4.1 year on year, and it's like 105 better than budget. And then this is what we've invoiced. We're a little bit behind on that, and then like we're quite a bit behind on gross profit, and basically on the gross profit percentage as well. So we can see our average selling price, our units in stock and the value, how much is reserved, not reserved, what's our internal stock, what's our new used ratio. So all just like important stuff to have a handle on. Likewise for used, so 1,032, up 28%, but still down on budget. Turnover is down, and basically, and the gross profit, basically, there's more work to be done on that as well. So like we can see what needs to happen here. So we got our number of stock units we have in stock. Then basically we also keep track of overages. So like against your budget, exactly how many vehicles over are we? What's our stock turn? Many number of days. Like these are critical things you guys just need to know. Then we're bringing in some stuff from the nominal. And basically, so we got sales direct expenses, we got departmental expenses, and then like we got a departmental profit. And then we got vehicle age debtors coming in as well. And so this is like a good example of a fairly simple dashboard that presents information to you. The month-to-date version we would send out like every Monday, and then the year-to-date we would send out at the month end. So next we're going to go into do a like demonstration of a few modules. So this is our menu. So like based on the business hierarchy of needs, and as Conall was saying earlier, get you to your information as quickly as 10, 20 seconds. So we're going to look first at the workshop performance. So very often people are trying to do these in spreadsheets, not necessarily available when you need it or in the format that you want. So here we can see sold hours for the group, sold value hours attended, productive hours, efficiency, productivity and utilization, and also then work in progress hours. And then here we can see the same thing by branch. And we can see like color coded based on who's doing well. So Birmingham, very good on efficiency. London, not so good. So we'll have a look at London next. So we can dealer dashboard. Then basically we can just select our branches, time periods, and we can pick any of these for specific dates or skill levels. So again, we're looking at London. So here's our totals. And basically, so now we can see by technician type and by technician, basically how each are doing. So we'll pick technician 107. So Tech 107 has 24 idle hours, 96% efficiency, 74% productivity, 77% utilization, and 43 WIP hours not yet invoiced. So maybe let's have a look at that 24 hours. That's always interesting. So show idle time. So here we can see that his 24 idle times was made up mostly awaiting work. So probably not a great state of affairs. But we still want to improve his efficiency. So I think probably the next place we might have a look is to show his outstanding WIPs hours. And in here we can see what WIPs is outstanding and for how many hours. We can also, if we want to see, just say he or she is coming to us, like asking for a pay rise, or they're due for review, then basically we can go into the technician inquiry part, and again we see our technician here, and basically we can see all his performance up by KPI, main KPIs over the last 12 months. And not only that, but then we've also got a benchmark over here. So this is like all the master technicians. These are their performance here to benchmark him or her against. Okay, so next we're going to hop over to parts, and we'll have a look at trade partners. But again, it's like a very much a moving feast in the UK automotive business at the moment. So we'll have a look to see how we're doing overall. So here we have like our running for the year, rolling year, and we see we've had like a kind of poor enough spring, really great summer, and then like things have kind of taken a turn for the downhill again. So we can also see this expressed on a map, and the bigger the circle, the more business we do with them, and then basically the red just means we're trading down. So we can see here then basically we have a trade partner basically trading down quite significantly, and basically so let's just go in and see why that is. So we can see then like basically how much it is for Citroen, Ford, and basically Volkswagen, and where we have segments, like what segments are involved. Next then basically we don't want necessarily to go like searching to see which ones we need to look at. We just want like a short list of basically the good guys and the bad guys. And so here we have the good guys. So top 10 based on 3-month run rate. So run rate is much better now than basically year on year because we're comparing last month to the previous 3 months. So it's much more actionable. So that's the best. So then we'll have a look then next at the worst. And so we can see basically how much they're down, and then basically what these guys were previously selling maybe $8,000 a month with us, and now basically they're only doing about 3. So that's the information we need to know, basically, and to get the answers to. And then what you can do on this is basically you can subscribe for this report. So I'd like to see that on the first of the month, and then it's delivered into my inbox, and basically in the form of that picture, and then I can interact with it there. So I'm prompted with the important stuff like pretty regularly. Our experience is that people need stuff delivered to them in their inbox because very often they haven't got time to go looking themselves. So next we'll have a look at the routes, and so maybe this time we'll have a look at profitability, right? So these are the good guys on top, and then basically, so we've got some here basically that are in trouble from a run rate point of view. So say if we select, so Route 5 here, 3 grand in September, and like, you know, trading down to very little now. So which customers is it? So here we select Route 5, and basically in here we can see where the route is, and then down here we can see which trade partners, how much business we do with them, and then basically like the run rate. So we can see like it's quite a few basically that's impacting on us that needs like closer inspection or amalgamation, whatever. So next now we're going to jump across to sales, and we'll have a look at see how the sales executives are doing. Again, people normally try do this in a spreadsheet, and it's not necessarily there when you need it. So again, same thing. Basically, so here is the company, and basically, so sales exec number 4 is like our top man or woman. Basically, it sold 149, and basically, which is like nearly 3 a week. And again, I've selected, you know, whatever time periods I want, and I can see their gross margin per unit, their metal profit, their paint protection, their gap, their warranty, their service plan, their finance penetration, their variable profit per unit, how much money they made for us in total, and then the split between new and used. And then basically, first question is like, really, is it 149? You know, everybody questions information. And so, like everywhere on the system, you just want to have that level of transparency. Well, here is the 149, you know. So we can see in here then basically, so new and used, there separately. And then if we just want to see like, you know, the top 4 executives for the company. So we have it here by brand, and we can see like our exec 8 in Brighton kind of make up the top 2, then followed by Birmingham and London. So never underestimate the importance of the bragging rights or the benchmarking. Like it really does work at a business level. So those are 3 examples of modules that basically that how actionable all your information is, how easy it is to get your information. You have your answers within 10 or 20 seconds, regardless of whether you are the, you know, the sales manager all the way up to the CEO. Okay, so next we're going to move on to like how do you evaluate BI solutions? Like choosing a BI partner like is a big deal, and so you need to like make sure you're choosing the right one, and also you know, you don't necessarily know, you know what you want now, you don't necessarily know what you want in 6 months time or years time, or when you have your answers, what the new questions are. So you do need to take time to evaluate what you actually need from a BI partner. So the first thing there is basically third-party systems integration. So you've seen from Conall's slide earlier that the information is everywhere. And it's not just sitting on your DMS, it's on your spreadsheets, it's in your F&I, it's on your third-party applications. All that needs to be pulled together. The next thing then is like you want something that's been co-developed with customers. Like, so you don't want like the BI company's view of the world. You want like stuff that's already, you know, trained up for what you need. Then you also want like drillable dashboards by job function. So that dashboard we looked at earlier, you can drill down into why, into the branches to see why exactly are we the way we are. You also then want comparisons against budgets and objectives. So keeping track all the time of where you're at, and basically, and also basically if they're, you know, forecasting where you're going to land versus like based on the run rate, like that'll be like pretty important. Then quarterly reviews with customer success. So as Conall was saying earlier, customer success is like really important for putting in best practice. So we are armed with facts normally, and then basically we normally work with the most entrepreneurial companies. So then basically you get to know how things, best way of doing things. Next then, the automated delivery of the management packs, right? Conall covered this briefly earlier on, and everybody needs their own version of information based on the job they do. So if you're a group executive or a director, you'll want like dashboards of how your business is performing or your areas are performing. If you're like an area manager, you'll want those dashboards too. But you also want to see a listing of how each store is performing to see which store do you basically, or branch do you basically focus on. And then like if you're a functional manager in the branch, you will need like your own information based on the job you do. So like if you're a service manager, you'll want like a daily report with your KPIs. You'll also want to see like your DOC, where are you going to land at the end of the month? What are the exceptions you need to deal with? And then weekly, you might want to see those workshop performance reports that we had a look at earlier. And so everybody has like their own need for their own slants on the one version of the truth. So then the next thing then is the league tables. League tables are really important, and like that drives performance management, we have to say. Continuous upgrades and enhancements. This is like a really big thing. There's not such a thing as the job is finished. Like once you move up a level, there's now a new level to move to. And basically your requirements become more and more sophisticated as you move through the levels. We find PowerPoint compatibility as well as a big requirement, being able to like drop stuff into PowerPoint, because very often it needs to get represented at board level or whatever. And then the last thing then basically fundamental requirement from your supplier really is the ISO 27001 security certification, because like the job is to pull all these different pieces of information together and present them back in an actionable way to you. So basically, you need to be confident that your data is secure, and with the ISO 27001, like they provide an external validation of like each of your suppliers' security procedures to see like are they good enough to stand up to scrutiny. So like that's very important. Okay, so then once we get to sales functionality level, you will need like your daily DOCs. So very often they're sitting on spreadsheets, so pull all them in and basically present them back to you basically in a seamless way that doesn't involve any work. You also want to see your sales and margin versus budgets by day, by week, by month. Track against manufacturer objectives. So as you know, like each manufacturer can have weird and wonderful objectives. So you need to basically see how you're doing against them. So the effort is then going into getting the results rather than basically working out basically where you stand. Sales performance league tables, we've covered them. New stock by payment status, like having all that lined up. So, you know, what's like consigned, what's coming interest bearing, what you paid for, and basically just keeping proper control of all that. Then like used stock is a whole world in its own right, and basically so there's lots of different levers for maximizing out your performance on there. You just need to know where you stand on all of those. Overstock tracking. So I would say probably most companies have overstocks of one kind of another. So basically that's like a constant management thing. So you need to know where you are. Full channel analysis as well. So you may want to pull out fleet separately as a separate business function, or corporate, or vans, or commercial. And basically, so like being able to do that is like critical as well. Finally, then basically conquest analysis, like that generally gets people are really looking for that, so they can have like really proactive conversations with their franchisors. So then on after sales, the daily DOCs, generally people have them operating in some form of a spreadsheet or maybe a financial BI or something. And basically, but you want the the operational ones, and basically just delivered out every day. Again, parts and labour, sales and margins versus budget. You want to know how your parts and service advisors are performing, in terms of refunds, when are they busy, there's quite a few KPIs on them. We've already had a look at the workshop and technician analysis. VHC of it obviously is really important as well, there's quite a lot of money in there. And in terms of upsell and follow-up and so on. Age whips, very often can be more of a problem than people realise, and it's just money just sitting there. Trade partner analysis you looked at. We also do the same for online, where you're selling parts online, and you just want to see how those are performing as well. Then part stock. So generally everyone's looking to reduce their part stock. So you want a bunch of dashboards that's going to basically help you focus on reducing your part stock. Then there's other things such as surcharges or environmental charges, tracking. Again, these are just more pots of money, and it's not just limited to these. And you want to make sure that you're mopping up all that money automatically without really thinking about it too much. And finally, then service retention. So service departments are becoming increasingly more important, and so you want to see what's your vehicle park. Where are you falling down in terms of not retaining your customers or the available demand. And this competitor matrix is available for download basically on the email you'll receive after this. And so I really recommend you download it and have a look at compare your potential vendors very carefully.
Thanks very much, John. We're on the final straight here now. This is a quotation. I love it. It just really tickles me. Jim Barksdale, some of you who are as old as me may remember Netscape nearly 30 years ago. But Jim said, if we have data, let's look at data. If all we have are opinions, let's go with mine. I know often when I read that one out, people think of somebody, sometimes themselves, when they hear that one. But just reading between the lines on it, I think one of the things it does is it acknowledges the value of gut feel and the value of experience, and we certainly do. And all we're saying is that if you combine that then with really good information at the right time, that's going to improve your decision making. And your business is much more complex than Netscape's business is, and your margins are much tighter than Netscape's business is. I would say that you need it even more than they did. I also believe that CEOs want their senior managers to come to them with solutions to problems that are backed up by data, not by opinions. I think that's going to be very, very welcome. And what we, as a business here ourselves, what we want to see is more dealer groups making data-driven decisions. And we're confident, based on what we've seen heretofore, is that with the right management team and the right information, this will drive your business forward. So to briefly recap before we go to the Q&A, I started by acknowledging the challenges to building a reporting system, the main challenge being that you have to pull from so many different data sources, and it needs to focus what's important, so you don't get drowned in that data that we keep hearing about. I talk about spreadsheets and the homegrown solutions that we typically see today, and I articulated in an ideal world that the classic solution might be one that you buy, but it's very expensive, very time consuming, and really, it's not for the faint-hearted at all. I then went on to talk about how an ideal cloud solution might look, and I described the high-level attributes of that. Then John took over, and he's just shown you there a few examples of how you can get those high-level views, how you can drill down, ask additional questions, and how with reports we can just drop those into the right inbox at the right time. So the solution is very actionable. It isn't just information sitting at the top of the tree. It flows right down throughout the organization. An analogy that we use here quite a bit is that it's a bit like a car engine. You've got all the various different parts in there, and every part needs to know what it's doing. The smallest gear, the smallest cog needs to know what it's doing at the right time. And with the right information in your organization, that's how we believe this will actually work. John then went on to talk about the way that you can evaluate, various options in front of you, because it's complex. John described how, you might know what you want today, but in 6 months or 12 months' time, you don't. But once you buy into a solution, you can be stuck there for quite some time. Actually, we had an example of a situation like that only in the last few weeks. We were with a group in the Midlands. They were looking at a solution that was half our price, but it was kind of more of a static solution that just looked at DMS data. And when they really evaluated the differences between the two, they could see that our solution was very, very much more valuable to them and was going to work with them for quite a good deal into their future. So thank you very much for your attention. I started by expressing the expectation that you'd at least pick up a few nuggets today that would help you when you go back into your business, and the hope that you might pick up some ideas in how you might build something more radical to move forward into the future with the challenges that I outlined that you guys are facing. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'll pass you back to Tim now.
Fantastic. Thank you, Conall and John. So now it's the Q&A. We have got time, obviously. Please do submit your questions. We've had about half a dozen in already, so we'll go through those shortly. But as I say, we've still got a good kind of 10 minutes or so. So if there's anything you want to ask or a comment you wish to make, please do send those in. So first question, Conall, is about implementation. Really, how do dealers implement this, and what are the challenges and successes of doing that?
I'll give John this one because John really looks after that side of the business.
Okay, so Tim, normally when we meet customers first, we do a general demo to them, and then basically if they like what they see, then basically normally if they're a CDK customer, we will do a live demo. We'll present their own information back to them, and then they'll make their decision. So then basically they've already seen their own information on our system when we go to implement. And basically, so they've already a pretty good idea of where their payback is and where and what they want to tackle in terms of low-hanging fruit. But normally what we do is we ship out the reports to the branches first, and basically the KPIs and exceptions ones. But then that means that branches then basically are taking action on stuff that maybe is taking up firefighting time in head office. And then basically, then the head office managers then can get stuck into things like, the trade partners, they can start working on that. And then the other thing that basically gets immediately into action then as well is that performance management that we looked at earlier. And so the system becomes really useful kind of within a matter of days of going live. And then it builds on from there over the next 3, 6, 12 months.
Okay, thanks, John. You mentioned CDK in your answer there. Questions just come in asking how do you get information from the CDK DMS? Is it a file extract? Is it API? Could you give us a bit more detail about that?
Yeah, so with Rev8 and Drive, we have created queries to go in and get the data. And so we pull everything out every night. And we have a requirement going forward to do intraday pulls as well for the more sensitive things. So all of that's already set up for Rev8 and Drive. And typically to build our live demo, we normally build that in probably 3 or 4 days.
Okay, thank you. So on implementation, I mean, how much questions come in? How much management time will it take up to kind of adopt the system and to get everybody on board with it? Would you say?
Typically, very little. I described if you went with a classic solution, you'd virtually be training them and what your KPIs are and educating them. We don't need that time or the type of approach that we do because we've built all the business logic or a lot of the business logic already. Where your time comes in is, John mentioned that if somebody wanted to evaluate that, they might want to meet us and just go through that, spend an hour or so with us. Then if they like what they hear, they'd like to maybe get a live demo, we'll get their data, build a system for them. It takes us about 4 days or so to do that. And then we go back and we show that to the senior management team. We recommend about a half-day workshop for that. Then if they go ahead with us, it's really just customization. People sort of say, look, we work a little bit different in this area, and we need to pick up on that. Now, the one exception to that might be we've been developing this solution for 3 years. We have a lot done, but we know that we've a lot more to do. So if somebody came to us with something new, they'd be like the leaders in that. They'd be like a kind of almost like a co-developer on that. But that's totally optional. They can wait for other people or us to do that work.
Okay, thank you. And again, you'd mentioned CDK. We've had quite a few questions come in asking if you also integrate with Pinewood's Pinnacle.
Yeah, okay. It's a commercial question to us. It's not a technical question. We can integrate with it. We've got kind of two choices from a commercial perspective when a new data source comes to us as big as a DMS, and that is, do we pay for it or do we pass the cost or some of the cost of that on to the prospective customer? Generally, nobody wants to pay for it, so we'll try and evaluate what the interest is in that sector and what the likely sales are we're going to get, and then we'll tackle that. But maybe just put it in perspective. Your classic BI company, if they are taking on a new data source, that would be like months and months of a project. Here, it's like weeks. And maybe one more thing to add: if one dealer that was large enough came into us, we probably would move forward with that, very, very, very quickly, and we would probably absorb the cost on that.
Okay, thank you. Somebody else has asked, can you consolidate data from multiple DMSs into one portal? It suggests, I guess, a group that's acquiring and got legacy businesses, legacy systems that it's yet to replace.
Over on our other sister company in the pharmacy business, we do exactly that. Basically, we're integrated in with the transactional system. We can have customers that are on 2 or 3 systems, and basically, but it all appears the same at the front end. So we haven't got to that stage in Automotive yet, but as Conall was saying, if we have a good enough dealer group prospect, then that's definitely something we would look at.
I just add to that, in the pharmacy sector, how some of our customers use that is that they may feel that they've gone further than their system can, and adding our information system on top of that often satisfies their needs, and they're very happy to stay with that transactional supplier. In some cases, they use it as a bridge. They can't to change your DMS is a very substantial move to take, which you don't see very often. It's exactly the same in the pharmacy sector with their PMR systems. But we can kind of give them a transition point where they have this information system on the old transactional system, and they have exactly the same one as they move on to the new one, which may happen through acquisitions. They like the DMS of that's in the company they've acquired. So lots of flexibility there.
Okay, fine. Another question come in. The approach to building a reporting system sounds very elegant, but they're questioning or saying unless it delivers more value than it costs, then they wonder whether they'll be able to take it on this year. Can you talk through sort of how your customers have realised a return on their investment?
I hate sounding evasive when get asked questions like that, but really the answer is it's the payback is in different areas for different companies. We'll find that we go into one company and they'll be very, very good at 3 or 4 of the main sort of 50 profit drivers. You go into another company and the payback is in somewhere else. But we always find it, and it's understandable why we find it. The tools that the dealers have today just make it very difficult to cover all the ground to get there. Give you maybe one example. One of our customers in one area they got a payback. So they found when they looked at the data that they were very inconsistently applying the charges for their surcharges and environmental charges across their base, and just by tightening up on that, they paid for the system. So everything then on top of that, if you like, was where their payback came from.
Okay, thank you. What scale of dealer group would you say this BI solution is most useful for?
Wide range. Our smallest customer has 3 to 4 branches. We're just about to go live with a customer that has 17 branches or so, selling about 20,000 vehicles per year, and that no way stretches us at all. We don't actually know what the upper limit is with our current infrastructure, but we believe we can cover up to maybe the number 5 in terms of UK dealers at the moment.
Okay. And somebody specifically has asked, what sort of costs are we talking about based on a 5-site group? I mean, that's something that either if you want to answer now, or if not, we can probably put you in touch with them directly.
Can't answer exactly. We've gone through a number of different pricing ways of doing things here. We started out doing number of outlets with the number of franchises, because we need to look at kind of the complexity of the data that we're dealing with. But we had some pushback on that. And so really what we found is that there's like a number of things that add to the complexity and the value of what we're doing. So we've actually built an algorithm, what we do at a data analytics company, and it's now subject to how many cars are sold, the number of outlets, annual sales, and the number of user licenses that they'd be looking for. But to specifically answer your question, a 5-outlet group might be paying somewhere between 25 and 35,000 per annum, something like that. But we'd be very surprised if they don't quickly get that back in just finding some areas where they inconsistently are doing some things. But we don't ask our customers or prospective customers to take a dive into the dark. John said that typically the way we engage with people is we say, look, if you want to have a look at this, we'll build a system for you and you can have a look at it. Our list price for doing a live demo is £2,500. We take about 5 days to do that, but currently we're doing this free of charge to, if you like, help us get this project off the ground. So any of the listeners out there that want to do that, when they get the email link afterwards from Automotive Live, they can contact us or they can go to our website and request that.
Okay, fantastic. Last couple of questions before we're going to have to wrap up, I'm afraid. One is, I think quite a large group here asking whether it's better to go with a software as a service provider, or do they incur the capital cost to save money later, or actually could they even do it themselves?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So basically, we do see some guys that are, basically they'll get an extract done and they try to do it themselves. And basically, there's a whole host of things like what Conall was describing in that classic BI approach. Basically, they've all got to be touched on at some point. So there's a whole bunch of different steps. And but assuming that the project is successful, basically the bit that people need to consider is, like, once you've got what you want, that's just the start of the journey, because basically now you've just moved up a level. So there's another level after that, so you've got to go again. And basically, so that's why software as a service works, basically, because you're paying a subscription. You don't have the initial capital costs, so it's much cheaper. You get your payback much faster. But then also the product just grows and grows in a way that doesn't cost you any more money. And the other thing with software as a service, like, which has been like a huge lesson for us, or a huge learning for us, is basically we have to make our customers more successful. Whereas basically, you can do a CapEx project, and basically whether it fails or not is a matter of opinion. But if you're, paying a monthly subscription, whatever, like, basically it's up to the SaaS company to make it work for you, and basically including all the human factors. So definitely, in the other industries we've worked in, like, everybody's gone SaaS, and basically because it just works.
Okay, fantastic. And the last question, just really kind of quick question. Do you only provide reporting, or do you do onward programs, i.e. marketing?
Marketing. That's an interesting question. We're an ambitious company looking to expand, and in a visit we did to Canada, that's what they're looking for the most. We engaged with a group in Canada that are actually one of the best we've ever seen at the marketing side, but they still told us that They know that they spend on average $300 per used car in advertising, but they spend that pretty levelly across the cars that sell quickly and the cars that don't sell. They know as well too that they advertise outside their geographic area and potentially even outside their demographic area, and we're able to solve that problem. One of the simple things we do is we bring that it's like web-based transactional data together with their inventory, and just bringing that match is a starting point for that. But it's a journey that we haven't really embarked upon yet, but very keen to work with a progressive group in that area.
Okay, so the message there is if there's significant demand and time over time, then you'll certainly kind of look at that. Fantastic.
No, we'll definitely do that, Tim. We'll definitely do that. It's just a matter of when.
Brilliant, good, lovely. Okay, we're going to have to wrap up there, I'm afraid. Thank you, Conall and John from Real World Analytics for today's presentation. We've had lots of questions, and I'm sure it's given our audience plenty to think about. If you want to view it again, I think you'll get emailed a link fairly shortly, so you can watch it at your leisure. Thank you all to the audience for joining us today and taking interest. And there obviously will be more webinars from AM in the coming months, so do please keep an eye on AM Online and your daily email newsletters for more detail. So thank you all for attending, thank you for listening, and all the best for the rest of your day.